If you journey from the terracotta clock tower of the square through the greenery of the Royal Parkland, you will find the Red Wall, 3 miles of Tifosi who have invaded their national autodrome. Because Monza just means more. These grandstands have witnessed over a century of speed, and today the old temple welcomes back the Formula One World Championship for the 75th time. Good afternoon and welcome to the Italian Grand Prix. It's 5.7 kilometers, 3.5 miles of motor racing history with 11 turns that break down as the Lesmo corners, the Parabolica and 3 crucial chicanes. The opening lap is coming your way in a few minutes' time. It will be crucial for the context of the Formula One World Championship. We're on the softer end of the compounds today, the C5, the C4 and the C3 tyre. The guaranteed one-stop of yesteryear is no more. You might have to stop twice to win this Grand Prix, but the thinking in the paddock is we will begin with a one-stop. Here's the starting grid for the 16th Grand Prix of the year, with the Saubers at the back once again, second race in a row that's the case. And Valtteri Bottas, former sprint winner around here. Welcome to Formula One, Franco Colapinto. He makes his debut from 18th. Lance Stroll is in 17th position. Yuki Tsunoda is 16th on the grid behind Esteban Ocon. And the French driver will look to move forward. His teammate is the next car ahead, winner of the Grand Prix here in 2020. Kevin Magnussen's 13th, unbelievably, his top start here in a decade. Daniel Ricciardo, another winner around these corners. He goes from 12th. Fernando Alonso missed out by 1/100th of a second when it came to getting to Q3. Q3 made by Nico Hülkenberg, 7th time this season, and Alex Albon, who has done that every time he's come to this racetrack. Sergio Perez is 8th. Max Verstappen in 7th means that's Red Bull's worst qualifying performance since Singapore last year. Lewis Hamilton was furious that he could have had pole and he ended up with 6th. Carlos Sainz is 30 years young today. He chases victory on his birthday. Charles Leclerc is in 4th. George Russell was pleased with 3rd after losing practice time, and it's a McLaren front row lockout with Oscar Piastri in 2nd. Last time that was the case, he won the Grand Prix back in Budapest. And it's over to you, Lando Norris at the start, twice on pole in sprints, 4 times on pole in Grand Prix, and you know the stat by now. He's never been in the lead at the end of lap 1 for any of them. In the commentary box, I'm Alex Jakes, joined by a former winner around these parts, David Coulthard. Are we expecting it to be a frenetic first lap?
I think there will be a lot of action. You've got to get the hurry up in a race where we feel that tyre management is going to be even more crucial with this new track surface. So therefore track position is absolutely crucial. We've got the reminiscing of Barcelona, George Russell around the outside of the 2 feuding McLarens. Lando will have in the back of his mind that can he convert this start where he hasn't managed in the previous ones. As you mentioned, Lewis Hamilton angry at missing out on the perfect lap that could have taken him to an easier grid slot, and the pressure that will be on the Ferrari drivers to perform. And amongst all of that, or at the back of it, we've got Max Verstappen, who knows if he's going to salvage anything, he's got to be aggressive.
It's set up so well. Jolyon Palmer with us in commentary as well. Where's your first headline of the commentary going to be?
Well, I think Norris has to keep this one off the line. We know the stats, but I feel like after last week, he can take the learnings. He's gone straight into another pole, and this might be the day where he puts that stat to bed. And let's not beat about the bush. Lando Norris has to win this Grand Prix if he's got his eyes on the championship trophy at the end. He has to deliver today, so there is pressure on him, even though Verstappen is 7th. Almost more, because Verstappen starts 7th. And for Max, he has more pace than 7th. He definitely could have done a better job. Both Red Bulls had a scruffy Q3. He can try and come back through, and he's got to be targeting a podium to minimise his losses. So those 2 are in a huge fight. And interestingly, guys, straight away, Red Bull have gone different on the tyres. They're both starting on the hards. Everyone ahead of them starting on the mediums.
They have thrown the dice with both cars, DC, so a clear statement of intent. Top 6, closest top 6 on the grid in Formula One history, by the way, less than 0.2 of a second from 6th to pole position, and then you get to the Red Bulls, who have gone in a different direction, starting on the hard tyre.
Yeah, I think that confirms they know they're on the back foot, and if they're going to salvage getting in amongst that top 6, they have to do something a little bit different. And there's uncertainty going into this Grand Prix with the new track surface. They've got limited long running on Friday, and everyone else settling for the more traditional go with the middle range of the 3 tyres, and then try and get a reasonable start. In theory, Red Bull should be compromised off the line, but in reality, because of the sort of concertina effect in the braking zone into the first chicane, even if they do lose out a little bit on the grid start, they'll come back into the mix as they run into the first chicane.
They're 7th and 8th in effectively an 8-car race, though, aren't they? If Albon or Hulkenberg come through at the start, they will just fly back past. They have enough pace advantage over those midfielders to not worry about that too much. I think there's loads of jeopardy in this race, though. There's still a risk of rain. There's 40% chance that there's some rain coming, but the temperature's so high, the strategy is a big unknown. Everyone aiming for a one-stop. It's 23 seconds to come and change tyres around this place. It's a long loss, but the degradation is going to be high in these soaring temperatures.
It will indeed, and as we look down, as they come round towards Parabolica, I think McLaren today, if they're running 1-2 and they have any doubt, we won't see a repeat of Hungary. I think they'll be decisive, and it will be advantage Lando. He's earned the pole on merit. They need to now believe that they can not only win the constructors, but they're in the hunt for the drivers.
It is a crucial race. There is James Vowles, who elected to swap out Logan Sargent to place in Franco Colapinto, who becomes Argentina's first Formula One driver since 2001. There is the state of play in the Drivers' Championship. Max Verstappen on 295 points, our winner of the last Grand Prix. Lando Norris on 225 back-to-back poles for the first time in his Formula One career. Can he do the same when it comes to victory? Toto Wolff announced this weekend that Andrea Kimi Antonelli would replace this driver, 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, a 5-time winner around this circuit, and he will hope to move forward at one of the most anticipated starts of the entire year. Christian Horner just wants forward progress for both Verstappen and Perez. They will be on the white-walled tyre, though. The track temperature is 52 degrees. The air temperature is 33. It has been an intense weekend so far, and it's a slow crawl to the line for the Sauber, making its way into position. Last driver on the grid is Zhou Guanyu, making his way to the iconic main straight. It will be 53 laps around this 3.5-mile circuit. Medical car is in position at the back. The cars are in place apart from the final row of the grid. Row 10 now forming up, and it means we look to the marshal with the green flag at the back. 30 points in the Constructors' Championship, 70 in the Drivers' World Championship. Green flag at the back. 3, 4, 5 red lights in Monza. And the Italian Grand Prix is underway. Lando Norris is looking at his teammate and he's got the launch that he needs. But George Russell is still a contender. Second and third are battling. Piastri blocks out Russell. Lando Norris has got to the front. Russell goes onto the grass and over the road. He momentarily takes the lead, but he'll have to feather it back. McLaren finally get the start they needed from Lando Norris. It's Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri. Russell loses out as a result of going over the road at turn number 1. It's Charles Leclerc, then Carlos Sainz as the McLarens are side by side, and Oscar Piastri's going all the way around the outside to take the lead with a bold and brilliant move. Lando still can't keep the lead on lap number 1, and he's lost second place to Charles Leclerc.
I can't believe what I've just seen. Absolutely brilliant stuff from Oscar Piastri, who knows that if he's running anywhere near his teammate, that McLaren have to start thinking big picture. He now changes that completely by leading this Grand Prix.
That could be move of the season. That was extraordinary from Piastri on his teammate, round the outside, low downforce, low grip, and he's into the race lead.
Big gravel there between the two Haas cars as they scrabble all over the road, and that's Hulkenberg losing positions and dropping down the order. Magnussen gets by, Gasly gets by, and there's a tear-off caught maybe somewhere.
Front wing, I think. Is it George Russell? Does he have a front flap damage?
One of the more extraordinary starts to the season, and it looked like Lando Norris had finally got the start that he needed, but the grandstands are going wild.
He was gonna leave the car with. I mean, I got the penalty for that, so.
Russell is heading backwards, might be about to lose another position, trying to keep Perez at bay. He does keep Perez at bay. Let's all have a deep breath and tell you that Oscar Piastri is the leader. Then it's Charles Leclerc. Lando Norris down 2 places. Sainz up 1. Hamilton up 1. Max Verstappen wasn't happy with the tactics that were employed, and Charles Leclerc, who's won this Grand Prix in 2019 for Ferrari, is all over the back of Oscar Piastri, who put one of the moves Well, that is contentious to do it to anyone around the outside of the second chicane, but your own teammate, magical stuff at Monza.
Yeah, I think Lando, when he replays that in his mind, will feel that he could have been a little bit more aggressive. I'm just trying to see if we can get a front shot of George Russell, because there was definitely something flapping off. It looked more as the dust that was kicked up by the Haas the previous lap. And, well, Oscar has to be first man through it, and that little dust just gets settled in your tyres, and we'll clean up a little bit on the straight, but he'll feel it. And now we may well find ourselves, we're into very early management on these tyres.
Well, Russell went slaloming, didn't he, through that first chicane. It was like a ski slalom, the way he was just dancing the rear of the car through the polystyrene bollards. Wonder if he did just tap the front wing on that, and he's lost out to Verstappen. Remember, he started third and was trying to go with Piastri into the first corner, so he's lost out big time. George Russell now behind Verstappen, and the Ferraris are quick. They have good race pace.
Yeah, and you've got to see...
A lot of damage. He's dangerous.
Copy that.
Yeah, Checo trying to get the attention of the referee. Well, you know, the clerk of the course, and George will decide if that's dangerous. I don't think that's going to do anything to force him to have to come in. I think his front right end plate has been removed in that. And I was just going to say, Julian, the actual slalom of that first chicane worked perfectly to penalise the gain that he got from missing out the chicane, because he actually ended up filtering back in alongside his teammate Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, he lost a lot for it. And he might have even tapped the back of Piastri as they were so close on the way into that first corner. And I do think he's got the front right of the upper flap of the front wing. There we go, closer look. Yeah, you can see it's gone. It's actually significant damage, as Sergio Perez was reporting.
DC's been trying to point that out to me since the first lap. We got there at the end. Great to show you from the trackside cameras. No end fence for George Russell on the front wing.
Yeah, I did a lot of damage in my career, so I am very sensitive to picking up on it.
0.7 of a second between McLaren and Ferrari at the Temple of Speed. Oscar Piastri leads, having put a move on Lando Norris that recalls last year on lap 24 when they made contact in this race. And we had drama in Budapest between McLaren teammates, but that was engineered by the team. This one down to the driving brilliance of Piastri to take the lead. Norris will want a response. Charles Leclerc will want to try and take advantage of it. Trading sector times at the moment. Charles Leclerc, middle part of the lap, very quick. Carlos Sainz, first part of the lap, very quick. It's Piastri, Leclerc, then Norris and Sainz. Lewis Hamilton is in 5th. Max Verstappen, on that hard tyre, is in 6th place. We go back to the start of the race.
Yeah, they were all off the line fairly in great order. You can see Lewis Hamilton there coming on a tiny bit of contact with Carlos Sainz, argy-bargy as they go down into the first corner. Just watch George Russell, takes that avoiding action, so no contact at that point. And then that slalom, oh, he clips it. Yes, indeed, Julian, he did clip that bollard, the second last one, and that could well be where that damage was, on board with George.
This gets very, very tight for George Russell then. He gets a good launch, but the McLarens lock out that inside path. Piastri then, he squeezes wide. And that is super tight there for Russell. Then this is, that's your slalom through there, and now you're just gunning it to get back on. Was it a bollard or was it the back of Piastri? Here's the sensational move, late on the brakes from Piastri. They go fairly, so close but fair between the two McLarens, and it's just a beautiful move from Piastri. No sign of team orders, quite clearly, for McLaren, and it cost Norris another position. The big lurid slide, through goes Leclerc, and for Lando, the start was exactly what he needed into the first corner, but then to be done around the outside was a disaster for him.
This is Hülkenberg, contact with Daniel Ricciardo, then he's going to scrape across the gravel, through goes Kevin Magnussen, and that put the dust on the racing line at that stage, and there is George Russell with the damage at that point of the lap.
Yeah, a brilliant hold there actually from Hülkenberg.
Yeah, Ricciardo squeezing Hülkenberg onto the grass, so that was a little bit naughty there from Daniel.
George Russell does not have the peak performance of that car. It's all gone wrong for him, and Sergio Perez will try and drop him to the back for the battle for the win here. That includes everyone in your picture at that point. And then further back, you've got Alex Albon, who maintained his position. Disappointment for Haas because they've allowed Fernando Alonso into the points, and Hulkenberg's dropped all the way down to 15th place. It's a couple of position gained on debut for Franco Colapinto, who finds himself in 6th, fastest lap of the Grand Prix, bringing a cheer from the crowd, who are into it like they were last year when they led the first 14 laps with Carlos Sainz. You will know if the red car goes through into the lead, because this place will explode. They are so partisan in these parts as we look at Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez in contest for that 5th place at the moment.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc getting the benefit of the DRS as we've got an early stop there for the Haas of Hulkenberg. And yeah, he's got a little bit of front wing flap damage as well, as they're working way at whole nose is being replaced. So this is going to be a long, slow stop for him. The hard tyres, unsurprisingly, going on. It's a long way to try and make it to the end, but if he's going to salvage anything, that's his best bet.
Further back in the pack, this is going to be Hulkenberg trying a late send and making contact as a result. That is pure frustration. We go on board with the German driver, trying to scrub off the speed and hitting Yuki Tsunoda.
Never on from there. So, yeah, Hulkenberg in the wars with both of the V-carbs. I think Ricciardo might get a penalty for squeezing Hulkenberg off into Ascari, but that one certainly more on Nico.
Yeah, there's no question Tsunoda will be on the radio going, he just ran into me, and it'll be very difficult to argue against that. He used Tsunoda as effectively a brake to get him round the corner.
Well, Lando Norris is 2.1 seconds back from Charles Leclerc. Has Lando Norris entered conservation mode, or is the Ferrari just plain faster at this stage? You're trying to make a one-stop strategy work today, so you don't lose 23 seconds on 2 occasions. Just manage those tyres. It's a resurfaced Monza circuit. There are new curbs as well, which allow the drivers to attack more into the Ascari chicane.
Oscar, we don't see graining on any cars yet. We think we need to get to at least Plan B target lap to clear traffic.
So already looking that the tyres are under control, and that Plan B will be a longer stint length. And they're all looking for the gaps in the traffic, but you would have thought the underlying pace of a McLaren on fresh tyres with DRS, I wouldn't have put this down as being a big time loss unless you unfortunately catch the traffic in this sort of section, and if they're a lot slower you could lose time through Ascari.
I think for McLaren as well, the fact there's Leclerc in between their 2 cars is much more of a threat than Mercedes. The way that Ferrari have been on their tyres, their race pace compared to their qualifying pace has been so strong in recent races. Last time out, Leclerc was nowhere in qualifying, managed to get through for a very solid podium, keeping Piastri at bay.
Just keep it there for the moment, Max, and then push that medium tyre hard.
So Max Verstappen being told by GP, his race engineer, to keep a watching brief and just hold what they have for the time being. He's in 6th position. He will know, he will see from the big screens that are around the circuit that Lando Norris, his nearest rival for the title, is not in the lead of the Grand Prix, although he just had a push lap that brought him closer to the back of Charles Leclerc. He's not too far away from the overall race lead, 2.3 seconds away from his teammate as they regroup. Yuki Tsunoda's been told to retire the car. He's heeded that instruction. He doesn't have the greatest luck here. 2 out of the last 3 races before today, he didn't even take the start. And today, he's retiring at the end of lap 7 after being hit. Frustration for the Faenza-based team. They're based just outside of Imola, our other Italian venue on the Formula 1 calendar.
Yeah, you can see the damage on the side pod there. So Hulkenberg will be due a penalty for that one. Ricciardo will be due a penalty for forcing Hulkenberg off. And Haas and V-Carb will probably continue to fight because they've got Magnussen with Ricciardo next. So it's all going on in the midfield. Out front, I think Norris is holding back, saving tyres. I think that's the only thing he can do right now. Whilst it's a DRS train ahead, I think he's got to save the tyres and try and go longer and do something different to the 2 ahead of him. But I find this dynamic fascinating for McLaren. As impressive as that move was for Piastri, it was a beautiful pass. It's really ended up compromising their race from a solid 1-2.
We'll get into that in a moment because it's a key moment. But the two Alpines were racing. It wasn't much of a race, was it? Esteban Ocon breezing on by past Pierre Gasly, and he takes 13th position. It's a 5-second time penalty for Daniel Ricciardo for forcing another car off the track. That was the opening lap. It was the moment that dropped Hülkenberg out of the points. He then had contact with the other car of that stable, and he finds himself down in 19th. Right, to go back to your point, Julian, on lap 9 of 53, DC, when you were fighting for the World Championship, when Mika Häkkinen was fighting for the World Championship, he was the lead contender, but you were both mathematically still in contention for it. Spa 1999, you put a bit of an aggressive move on him at the start. Similar thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember on the podium, Mika wouldn't speak with me. I'd won the Grand Prix, and some crucial points in his battle with Michael had been taken away. But until such time as the team start issuing team orders, which is their right, that's in the driver's contracts, I'm sure it was in Julian's contract as well, that you should follow the instructions of the team principal or a delegate from the team. And until that time comes, you've got to race as hard as you can. I'm super impressed with what Piastri did there. That is not an easy move, and you've got to be so brave at the start of the Grand Prix, risking coming together with your teammate, given how new to the party McLaren are. But that's a real statement of intent. There's a long way to go in this Grand Prix, but this actually gives McLaren a bit of a problem. I'm sure that Norris, as Julian has said, is playing the long game, should in theory have the underlying pace to still get in front of Leclerc. But then that leaves them the problem, do they try and switch later in the Grand Prix? I know I'm throwing it way down this afternoon, but realistically with the points gap, Norris is the man that could win the Drivers' Championship.
But Daniel Ricciardo at the first turn just covered this off when he outbraked himself. Fernando Alonso was the car ahead. He did rejoin directly behind. Jolien.
Norris has got Leclerc ahead of him now, so they can't just swap the places round because they're first and third. So they've got to do something about Leclerc, who's very fast at the moment. He's just done the fastest lap of the race. So there's two sides to this. Firstly, Piastri's move was, like I said, it was exceptional. It might be the move of the season. But the fact that there's no team orders there at McLaren and he's allowed to go and fight has given them a major headache. Norris could be just cantering away with this one, heading towards a nice win.
Here's the move for Sergio Perez. He got a horrible amount of dirty air coming through the parabolica, sent him wide through that corner. But even with that, he's able to move ahead into the braking zone and take 7th place. And George Russell has gone from chasing 3rd position, trying to turn it into 2nd position, going long at the first corner of the racetrack, and he's tumbled down to 8th position. Kevin Magnussen fights his way by. He's got past Daniel Ricciardo at the Rettifilo chicane, the first one on the racetrack.
What was quite telling for me is even with DRS, when Checo Perez got alongside George Russell, they were almost just nip and tuck in terms of straight line speed. It's almost like the DRS effects on this different wing configuration that Red Bull have brought to this Grand Prix is not as powerful.
George Russell's been called into the pits. They'll have a decision to make about whether they replace the front wing of that car.
Yeah, I think he's struggling for pace, isn't he?
And Oscar, do you have an opinion on Plan A versus Plan B yet?
I think Plan A so far.
So just coming back to what we've been discussing there. Now, McLaren could favour Norris in terms of strategy to try and get him to jump Leclerc. So right now, they can't do anything relative to Piastri. But if they do find themselves in a situation where they're running 1-2 later in the Grand Prix, that's when things get complicated for the management.
Then they have a direct decision to make. That could be hugely consequential for the Drivers' Championship especially. George Russell having a good qualifying Saturday. Not the easiest start to the race. Avoiding action to miss Oscar Piastri the first turn on lap 1, but replacing the wing. And he's back into, he's squirreling all over the concrete before he gets to the fast lane, and he will rejoin way down. Daniel Ricciardo has also come into pit after an action-packed stint. It's Alex Albon who is leading the second race. The contenders, the top 7 on the left-hand side of your screen, led by Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, how nice was that move from Magnussen on Ricciardo before Ricciardo pitted as well, around the outside at this turn. It was a lovely move from K-Mag, who's now up into the top 10. And for Russell, it's a compound issue, really, damaging the front wing. Because on a day like this, where the track temperature is so high, it's 33 degrees out there, air temperature, you then start damaging your tyres, and every lap it gets worse and worse. So finally, he gets a reprieve, a front wing change, and he can feel what the balance should be like in a Mercedes.
The Red Bulls find themselves now in 6th and 7th. Max Verstappen 9 seconds away from the lead of the Grand Prix. Sergio Perez 11.5 seconds away from the lead of the Grand Prix. But they will get the medium tyres on lower fuel at the end of the race. Faster compound, lighter car.
Absolutely, and this is a situation that Checo Perez has not been in for some time. Looking at the gearbox of his teammate after 12 laps, we know that they'll be managing the situation, but it just feels that as difficult as a qualifying as it was for Verstappen, it's been a stronger weekend in relative pace for Perez.
Sergio Perez trying to return to the podium today. It's his longest run off the rostrum since he joined the team. He's trying to get back there today. Good start to the season, but the form had fallen away. But as you say, DC, last couple of races, he seems to be turning the page on it, and he's 1.6 seconds away from his teammate. That is George Russell, looking at the back of Fernando Alonso, who has jumped into 15th position, but on the hard tyre, and Russell is having a tough old day of it. Of course, he lost longer than the normal stop time, changing the front wing.
So they've got a long way to go on that hard tyre. That may be a two-stop for those guys. Everyone else is heading towards a one-stopper by continuing to circulate. And look at the gap now, Piastri to Leclerc, 2.5 seconds, on board here with Lando Norris. And for a minute, I wasn't sure if he was diving into the pits. It would have surprised me because he's homing in on second place. He's got DRS.
Yeah, that's interesting that he's choosing to take that shorter line and coming out of a little bit the slipstream. And again, even in the braking phase down into the first corner, taking a slightly unusual line. Is that a cooling issue? They're not quite getting enough clean air. I wouldn't have thought at that distance it would have had that big an effect.
He was doing it already in qualifying. That inside line is just shortening the distance to the end of the lap.
Second Lesmo, my word. Lando Norris has got that gap down from 2 seconds, which was out of choice. But as he tried to close it to within DRS range, that is how easily your race can come undone, and a little bit of gravel brushed onto the circuit. This is the corner. We're looking at it 1 lap later.
Yeah, you can see the telltale signs of that gravel he's thrown on the track. It's like maybe he's dreaming of being back on the summer holiday, heading to the beach. But I actually think it's good. It's messy, but I think it's good that we have the consequence of gravel in some of the runoffs, because there isn't the option to open the steering and go, I've made a mistake, I'll get away with it this one time.
Tell you what, that was so aggressive through the Ascari chicane for Lando Norris. Got the benefit of the DRS zone before he got in there, but he is really pushing on. Gap down to half a second.
Leclerc's pace is falling away quickly.
Lando suggests we do box to overtake on Leclerc, box to overtake.
So the call comes out. Oh, he's hit the marker coming into the pits, and I think he got away with it, but was he over the pit lane speed limit?
Well, we'll find out pretty soon, but that's a lack of concentration, or a drop in concentration for Lando. It was a late call from the team. Let's see if it works out.
Okay, so he goes to the fresher rubber first. 2.2 second stop is fairly useful, but he was hot into the pits, and now he's going to need a real push on outlap to try and heap the pressure on Charles Leclerc and also his teammate Oscar Piastri.
Last week, Leclerc boxed to overtake on Piastri and got himself a podium. This time McLaren have gone for that exact strategy to try and jump the Ferrari. But wow, it's such a difficult line to try and get down because the speed is immense coming through Parabolica. You then ping it off to the right and get down to the pit lane speed limit at 80 kph. And I wouldn't be surprised if Lando might have gone over that. He was all locked up and he couldn't turn because he was all locked up, and he touched the marker.
Very important for this outlap that he cleared the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. That's for position. No difference in lap at the moment, so that was a fair racing move. Ocon focusing on his race. This is the moment that Lando Norris was told by his race engineer, peel into the pit lane, scrub off the speed, but look at how he did it.
Yeah, massive lock up in the front axle, and well, it's actually quite a tricky one, Jolene, isn't it? Because you're judging down to the speed that you can see on your dash, but it's more a sort of memory of what you've done in the previous laps, so he won't know whether he's been speeding as he crossed the line.
In comes Charles Leclerc trying to cover off that pit stop for McLaren. Also in Lewis Hamilton, hitting his marks at the moment. The Red Bulls released up to third and fourth on that hard tyre that will go longer. Oscar Piastri remains the race leader. Where is Charles Leclerc? Where is Lando Norris? On the left-hand side, you're on board with Lando Norris, and then we will get the picture of where he is relative to this man, and he's powering through. He's getting ahead. There he is. Told you he was ahead. We caught it in the end. Lando Norris leaps up to what will become a net second place in the race.
Yeah, Leclerc's deg was just quite high at the end of that stint, so it wasn't even a close thing for him, but he had to just pit and get off that tyre. He was losing too much performance, so it's clearly 2 seconds that Norris put into Leclerc. And so far, no sign of the pit lane speed limit being an issue, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, hopefully not. And well, this is an opportunity for Norris. A long way in this Grand Prix to go, but if he wants to start putting the heat on Piastri, he can use those new tyres. As we join Piastri on the entry to Parabolica, he's going to peel into the box.
This guy will struggle to go to the end.
Okay, understood.
Carlos Sainz has proven in the past of being a master.
Yeah, just looking at his dashboard there, you see 79 kilometers an hour, and that helps the driver judge as he breaks down to the pit lane. Great work by the team. That was slick pit stop.
So 23 seconds, you lose. It looked a quick stop for Piastri. He needs it. He had a buffer of 26 when he came into the pits. And Lando Norris has finished second to a teammate around this circuit before at Monza. They collided at this corner last year at Monza, and that is Oscar Piastri on new hard tyres, covering off his teammate. Alex Albon is yet to stop.
What was that? Why do we pit if we undercut?
Charles obviously felt he could keep going on those tyres and accepting that his pace is his pace, but wanting to be onto those fresher tyres later in the Grand Prix, which, in fairness, he's got a point. Once you've lost the place, then putting yourself in like-for-like situation against a car which we believe has an underlying race pace advantage, you're just basically cementing third.
Yeah, they are running a skinny rear wing on that Scarlet Ferrari, though. They've lost track position, so Lando Norris gaining points relative to Max Verstappen in the World Championship as it stands. Both Red Bulls still need to pit and go on to a second mandatory compound in this Grand Prix. You're on board with Lando Norris, who is chasing Alex Albon for fifth, but up the road is Oscar Piastri, and will we get a sequel to the stunning start to this Grand Prix when the two McLarens were side by side into the second chicane? So much grip for Lando Norris.
Lando, it's likely we will have to cover with the other car. It'll be for Pyrals.
Cover for the other car. They're asking for a defensive mindset already, but yeah, you highlighted it there, Alex, the difference in mid-corner speed between a new set of hards and a very tired set of mediums for Albon at the apex speed in Parabolica. Visibly, I think it caught Lando out a little bit.
Yeah, certainly in the middle part of Parabolica that's seen so much drama all the way through the weekend. Red Bull continue to run very close together on the racetrack. Only 1.9 seconds between Verstappen and Perez. Daniel Ricciardo has a penalty for failing to serve his time penalty correctly at the pit stop. A penalty for not serving the penalty correctly. It's going to be one of those days for RB.
Yeah, that's just an operational situation when you come in for the stop. The pit crew should not touch the car for the full 5 seconds, and is it because of that?
Yeah, front
wing was touched. It may seem harsh, but rules are rules. Watch the, yeah. It's a harsh one, isn't it? Because quite clearly that hasn't assisted anything. He's realised the error of his ways.
But for that, Ricciardo's day is basically over. That's how much that makes a difference there for Ricciardo.
So it reminds me of my mother saying, "Don't touch the cookies." Don't touch the front wing.
Fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap there. First Piastri, then Norris, then Charles Leclerc, who wasn't amused with the strategy that he got. He's trying to close up once again. Now the pace fell away. We know the McLaren is kind on its tyres, really kind on its tyres. On the medium, the pace fell away first for the Ferrari, and they went to the fresh rubber earlier on. Piastri is now directly behind, Norris is directly behind Oscar Piastri. So that conversation that we were talking about 9 laps ago can now come into play. Charles Leclerc, with this wonderful camera that we have on board to show you the speed of the Ferrari around their favourite circuit of them all. Well, it gives you a great idea of the speed. It's Formula 1's fastest average speed venue of the season, but McLaren could well have a decision to make. Max Verstappen, second Lesmo.
He does. Lando Norris just dips that front wheel over the curb, understeer through there, and then rear wheel into the gravel. That will cost him a little bit of time, but he's trying to manage how far he can go in these tyres versus the drop-off and grip, as we now have Sainz into the pits.
So Sainz believed that coming in and getting rid of the medium tyres for the hards as early as Piastri, Norris and Leclerc did was too much. He's come in a few laps later. He has an offset to chase them down. He is a driver with a track record of calling strategy correctly. 2.4 second stop as the Ferrari rejoins.
Yeah, and he should come out into clean air ahead of Ocon, or maybe not quite. This is going to be the battle of the brakes. I think he's going to win it. So that's absolutely key. That's what they would have been looking at. So you got Ocon, and then directly behind him, Hamilton. So he should be able to break free on those new hard tyres as that battle between, and we'll see Hamilton getting the pass done here as well on the run down to the second chicane.
Yeah, Hamilton's going to make his way by. Ocon yet to stop.
Covering off Hamilton was the big one there for Sainz. So he's extended the stint, and he is looking plumb like a one-stopper. The other three, they have pitted pretty early for a one-stop still, so they're going to have to look after their tyres pretty carefully, Leclerc and the two McLarens, to make sure they'll go to the end, and Sainz can push on a little bit more and see if he can catch them and make it a 4-car train. He's got Hamilton for company, but Hamilton also pitted pretty early and should fall away as the stint goes on.
Yeah, Hamilton's got a pit stop over Verstappen, who's leading this Grand Prix, so when Verstappen pits eventually, he'll still come out into that window behind Hamilton, but on fresher tyres.
And Red Bull issued the instruction that the pace can now be picked up. So they are racing to a prescribed time out there as they try to take those hard tyres a long way so they can attack on the mediums later on. Max Verstappen told to turn up the wick. He's the race leader. He's ahead of Sergio Perez. Max Verstappen trying to do what he did in 2022 around these parts and win from 7th on the grid. George Russell making the pass is the next move we're going to show you. That is on Valtteri Bottas for 9th position.
Yeah, working his way back up to what should be place well, in the top 10, but probably behind Perez, assuming everything runs normally from here to the end of the Grand Prix. But Hamilton putting some pressure on the back of Sainz, who's clearly come out and decided to not hit those hards quite as aggressively.
He's also thinking long-term here, isn't he, for the end of the race, and making sure that he keeps that tyre advantage all the way through, because he said earlier on he's not sure that those ahead of him that have pitted won't have to pit again, so he doesn't want to get into the same pickle for himself. But Hamilton's also showing how difficult it is to overtake here. 6/10 away on the start finish and really making no inroads with the slipstream and DRS.
This is Kevin Magnussen trying to pull off another overtake, and this time wasn't as special as the move at the first chicane. Contact with Pierre Gasly.
Yep, on that dusty inside line, locks up, and well, it was always going to be contact if Gasly didn't use the escape road, but it was wheel to wheel, so there should be no long-lasting damage.
That's what can happen at the second chicane. Roger, the second around this circuit. Here is Fernando Alonso trying to displace Valtteri Bottas, yet to stop. Sauber team really struggling for form, yet to have a pass, yet to have a point so far as you watch the pass of Fernando Alonso. No point in 2024 for either driver. Max Verstappen being called in as Alonso gets up to 10th position. 22 laps done then, and they believe that they can move on to the medium compound of tyre.
That's early.
Yeah.
To go on to the mediums. I don't even think that's a definite one stop for Red Bull. They have to use the mediums. They've started on the hards. Max was given the hurry up a couple of laps ago and he's found no more pace. So they're not extracting a huge amount, even in clear air now, and they're going to cut their losses. And he's going to come out once again behind Hamilton on fresher tyres, but a more fragile medium.
Yeah, he, assuming a normal pit stop, will be out just in front of Ocon, who's still to pit. But they've got some form in the past.
They do. A lot of it started in their Formula 3 days. Max Verstappen being greeted by the team still in the lead of the Formula One Constructors World Championship. Red Bull Racing, that doesn't look quick at the rear of the car, and that's a slow stop. He didn't need that. Oscar Piastri has the fastest lap. Red Bull turning a 6-second stop for Max Verstappen.
Set of hards going back on.
So that's a two-stop, locked in. And isn't it funny, when things are going well, the 1.9-second pit stops are coming in, the strategies are all golden, the drivers aren't making mistakes, and suddenly the pit stops are not good, the strategy doesn't look like it's worked out for them.
You are allowed to race Oscar papaya rules.
Ooh, papaya rules. Can't wait to find out what they are, because it looked like gloves off on the opening lap of the Grand Prix.
Indeed, that is, well, that's welcome news, race fans. This Grand Prix is very much alive and well, but that may well be another way of saying the papaya rules are, you're higher in the championship. We want it to seem like we're not interfering, but actually we are, and Oscar's been told papaya rules and he won't make it difficult.
We'll find out. We will find out in a few moments' time. Perez is in the lead of this Grand Prix. As you look at his teammate's slow stop, Piastri has caught him. Norris is close to the back of him. Leclerc is close to the back of him. So it's a four-car train at the front of the field. And Max Verstappen not having the easiest of weekends. Furious with that one. Take two for Red Bull. Their second car in the Grand Prix is pitting from the lead.
I think I'd be worried that in hitting the steering wheel I might knock one of the switches or dials, so...
Accidentally give you a burst of drink.
Yeah, exactly.
He's practiced by now this weekend though, isn't he?
Good point.
Yeah, he, across the practice sessions, across the qualifying hour, has been leaving one hand off the steering wheel in frustration, not with the turn and poise of previous years' Red Bulls, and they have found themselves caught for race pace by McLaren.
So how do we do this stint then?
We just get on with it now, Max.
So just run the tyre as hard as he wants, and then they'll make a call as to when it runs out of rubber and come in and put the next set on. But that is condemning them to a low point scoring position this afternoon.
Well, he must pit again. He must. So must Perez. They've both gone hard to hard. So at this stage, flat out, just thrash it. You'll put on a medium and then thrash it again to the end. There's no more time management for Red Bull. Just extract whatever pace you can and go aggressive.
It's lap 24 of 53. You had to get to around lap, how far did you have to get? Lap 27 before your window for the one stop, if you started on the hard, was conceivable, that medium tyre. And this isn't a circuit in the past known for degradation, but the new surface has changed things. The high temperatures have changed things. Kevin Magnussen, his own cameo in this Grand Prix. We're back on board with him, 13th place, and this time he fights his way by into the Parabolica. You don't see that very often. He gets by in the Haas, clearing Pierre Gasly. There was a 4-lap tyre offset. He's on 4-lap fresher tyres than the Frenchman, and this is going to be another passer position. This time we see Esteban Ocon continuing to run on that tyre. He's just been passed by Perez.
We saw Magnussen leaning his head on very early to be experiencing some neck fatigue, but maybe just it's a highest G corner Parabolica, well over 4G in the race trim. And we've got George Russell now honing in on the back of Ocon. Ocon yet to pit, so it shouldn't be too difficult. It's an unfortunate place for George to be coming onto the back of him though, because no real opportunity to get anything done between the two Lesmos. Maybe he'll pick up a slipstream here down to a Ascari, but it'll be really dirty offline. He'll be forced. No, I thought he was going to be forced to try and do it round the outside, but in the end, fairly straightforward pass into that Ascari chicane.
We've seen from the junior categories earlier in the weekend, the bumps that used to be there at Ascari, speaking to the drivers, have been flattened out, so that's become far more of an overtaking opportunity into the third chicane around this racetrack, named for Italy's last Formula One world champion. On the weekend that it was announced that the 18-year-old Kimi Antonelli would be George Russell's teammate for next year. He is the great hope of Italian motor racing, launched through, bypassed some categories, and he's been launched straight into a prime Formula One seat for next year. Kevin Magnussen's on the attack once again. Valtteri Bottas continuing to run a long stint on that hard tyre. Magnussen's come in 10 laps ago to get fresher rubber, and he moves up to 12th position. Alex Albon has lost a place to Fernando Alonso compared to where we were earlier in the Grand Prix, and Esteban Ocon has still yet to stop.
Just try to figure out when Verstappen makes his additional stop, he could well find himself running behind. If we assume Alonso, Albon are all trying to do a one-stop, he could find himself behind those guys, but with a racy set of tyres, is anyone going to have to follow them? It does look like the others are comfortable to try and get this one-stop done.
They're still rocking along nicely for now. Piastri comes across the line and does a new fastest lap of the race, and look at the gap now between the two McLarens, over 2 seconds, Piastri and Norris. So even though Papaya rules and they're racing, right now it's Aussie rules. Piastri just extending the lead.
Nice, I like that.
2.2 seconds out front. It is often, given the high speed of this place, the fastest Grand Prix of the season when it comes to the actual minutes raced out there. This is Fernando Alonso in the green Aston Martin, making his way past his old teammate Esteban Ocon, just running his own race. We've seen so much of Ocon being passed today, but he's going for that one stop. Alonso's already come in for fresh rubber, and he is up to 9th position. Fernando Alonso trying to get a run of point scores continuing. He scored in Belgium, he scored in the Netherlands, and he's looking to continue that today. This is Daniel Ricciardo we're on board with. Pierre Gasly is the driver ahead in 14th position. Ricciardo's race coming undone after getting that penalty for squeezing Nico Hülkenberg opening lap of the race and then failing to serve it correctly. So he's just having fun out there and trying to recreate one of his great dive bomb moves of old. And Pierre Gasly has to take avoiding action as a result and doesn't even argue it. Through goes Ricciardo.
Yep, steady enough pass on there. And actually, just looking a bit outside our top 10, and Colapinto is only 9 seconds behind Albon. And I've got to say, I think that's a pretty solid, given where he started, and you inevitably end up a few seconds behind at the end of lap 1. I'd say he's matching him lap time-wise as well. So pretty solid debut, although not showing any signs of getting points.
Albon is in a net 10th place at the moment because Ocon still has to pit, and Albon pitted later than most around him. This was very generous, wasn't it, from Gasly to cut the chicane, give the place straight up, not even trying to fight it out on the radio.
At no point was Ricciardo ahead, tried the switchback dive bomb move, and he pulled off so many times when he was with Red Bull, winning Grand Prix week in, week out. 7 wins with Red Bull, the 1 win with McLaren. His only podium finish around this circuit on the top step of the podium for McLaren back in 2021. After that coming together between Verstappen and Hamilton, who were separated on the racetrack by 7.3 seconds. The McLarens are the wrong way round if you're a Lando Norris fan, or the wrong way round if you are a fan of the Drivers' World Championship closing up. But for Oscar Piastri, he's been told papaya rules on the radio. They clearly have a race plan for what to do in this situation, as Lando Norris sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix.
So you'd have thought if they had pre-planned that if they're 1-2, Norris would take the win, they might have told them on the first lap not to go hell for leather and risk coming together to just take the race lead. You'd have thought they might orchestrate that from the front row lockout, but there was obviously nothing in plan there. They went wheel to wheel. Piastri pulled off a beauty of a move, and if they're then going to reverse it, it seems like all of that, the risk and everything in that was for nothing. And at the moment, there's no sign of them reversing it.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and I think it may well be as simple as they've gone, okay, first lap, normal rules apply, do not crash with your teammate. It's a fairly obvious statement, but you're allowed to just let the first lap unfold. And that's where Piastri, I'm sure, with our old friend Mark Webber, would have been in his ear going, right, son, you've got to get aggressive on that first lap. You've got to try and see if you can find a situation that makes it very difficult for the team to start favouring one over the other.
But the risk of doing that when, all the momentum is with Norris in this title fight with Verstappen, McLaren coming on song. He actually got his race win, but the risk of sending that round the outside.
Hold on a minute. Your nickname was Jolien High Risk Palmer. You were the king of taking risk.
And even I think it was too much.
We'll debate this as long as the McLarens are 1 and 2, which they are at the moment. Ferrari 3 and 4. Sainz with a tyre offset. He's got fresher rubber to push on. Lewis Hamilton is 1.4 seconds away. Last time around, very similar lap times for Sainz and Hamilton. Both the Red Bulls are on a 2-stopper. They have to get new rubber once again. And we're looking at Alex Albon trying to clear Esteban Ocon now. As Ocon's just running this incredibly long stint, and we go on board with Franco Colapinto, who started in 18th place. He is now in 16th position, trying to line up Pierre Gasly directly ahead. Driver who's won this Grand Prix in the past, and Gasly is not having an easy time of it out there, because that's a really nice move on debut for Colapinto, who was fighting in the Formula 2 Championship earlier this year. He's had a good couple of days in Italy in his career this year. Won the sprint race in Formula 2 in Imola and makes his Grand Prix debut in Monza.
Yep, very solid overtake there using DRS. It was also a great opportunity to be on board driver's view and just see the effect of the lap time. He gained a full almost 4/10 with that DRS on the run down to the first corner. And, now nicely set up.
Norris starting to struggle. This is when Red Bull starting to have graining, around lap 15 in the stint.
There's strategy to still unfold here. We know Red Bull are locking in a 2-stop. They have locked in a 2-stop. Sainz could go to the end because he had a later pit stop.
This is George Russell up against Sergio Perez. Russell trying to go around the outside, and again he's having to scamper over the road at the first chicane. He knows the rules of engagement though, and he will have to give Perez the place back. He does so. Is he going to try and do it in a way that gives him an opportunity to attack once again? Race control can sometimes be a bit sniffy about that. They don't feel you gave back the advantage, and Russell stays behind. He's on the charge though at the moment, trying to take Perez.
Yeah, Leclerc's right with Lando Norris. I don't know what's happened on this lap, but Charles Leclerc, here he is within half a second as they came through Ascari, and there may well be a second pit stop in this, so there's undercut and strategy, even if it doesn't play out on track right now.
Yeah, it looks like the front left of Lando Norris is showing signs of some graining there. It was more obvious as he ran down towards the Parabolica. So this is Leclerc feeling comfortable, feeling racy, but too far back, I think, at this point, even with DRS.
Lando's made a mistake on the last lap in the middle sector. He's lost 2 seconds to Piastri, and look at that gap now suddenly between the two McLarens. 5 seconds. Piastri leads Norris, and Norris is under pressure, and we heard he's not sure about his front tyres. He's heading towards a 2-stopper, I'd have thought.
It looks like, if you look at the graphic there, that it's going to be the second Lesmo once again. Our team will cycle through and find the replay. Consequential moment. Let's look again. This is Lando Norris. Now we're heading to the second chicane, in fact. And this is going to be into the Roger, on board with the driver who was second, and having to scamper on, having to go to the correct side of the bollards and rejoin. And that sees Charles Leclerc in his wheel tracks.
Yeah, I would love to be able to see the off-board again as you see the replay of George Russell trying to go around the outside of Perez. Perez just nicely opens the steering to say, no, I'm not going to give you that space. Could have been...
What is he doing? He gives me the position and then he race me?
Well, I think the clue is in the name Grand Prix Racing. Of course, once he's given you the position back, he's going to try and race you.
Into the pits we come with Lando Norris. Less drama this time when he scrubs off the speed, but forced to come in early for the rubber again. So it is a 2-stopper. Unlike previous years, he will get the rubber first. And Lando Norris being held for a moment there, 3.3 seconds. Max Verstappen pushing on. And Verstappen at high speed, clearing the pit straight before Lando Norris can get there. Through goes the leader of the World Championship. And Lando Norris drops behind Max Verstappen on the racetrack.
So, Piastri leads 5 seconds now clear of Leclerc. Can Leclerc try and go to the end? There's 20 more laps. Or will he pit and just have fresher tyres to go and attack Norris? McLaren presumably will pit Piastri as well to drop him back, but they've got to wait until Leclerc pits just in case that Ferrari try and do something clever and go for a long 1-stop, a la George Russell in Spa.
Yeah, well, Leclerc has just popped the purple in the first sector. He's running pretty much, well, he's Gasly up ahead, but that would suggest that he's not trying to manage those tyres. The next couple of laps will give us an indication as to whether they are going to try and eke it out and potentially be tired and tireless towards the end of the race, or whether he just follows in on this two-stop.
I don't know why I'm killing my front left so much.
A lot of fast, long right-handers around their circuit. The two Lesmos and Parabolica that we're coming up to all put stress on that front left, and Lando taking more out of it than some of his rivals today. And you know what I wouldn't be feeling too clever about if I was Lando Norris right now? Looking ahead 3 seconds up the road and seeing Max Verstappen. Now, Max has to pit. They're not in a direct fight, but I wouldn't still like the prospect of trying to pass him on track with fresher tyres.
Yeah. Ever since Austria, they have been far cleaner going wheel to wheel. This is George Russell into the pits. Slow, went to the rear tyres, potentially the reason why. 4.2 seconds, turning into one of those days for the winner of the Austrian Grand Prix earlier in the season.
Yeah, if Red Bull, famous for the marketing, wanted to have a bit of fun, they could have written on the underside of the rear wing on Max, don't even think about it. Some drivers, they should have approach with caution.
We've had that in the past in Formula One. It is Piastri finds himself in the lead over Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc asked for a tyre offset, asked to run a longer stint than Lando Norris, not to respond on the first opportunity. Wonder if he'll get it with this. He's been on those tyres for 18 laps now. Degradation far more intense here than in previous years. It is coming down to how you work those Pirelli tyres.
So Piastri and Leclerc still stay out. They've got to watch each other. McLaren have got no incentive to pit Piastri until Leclerc makes a pit stop, if he makes a pit stop. Let's see what happened to George Russell, looking at the back of Sergio Perez. Sniff of grass on the way into the first chicane.
It's an unusual one. If you watch this, though, Julian, he just drifts right over onto the dirt. Just seen that all weekend. People, it's almost like the white lines have been magnetised.
Yeah, it's still asphalt just over on the grass. It's like it's painted brown and green for the dirt and the grass. Magnussen back in the wars, this time with Alex Albon.
Consequential move that for Kevin Magnussen, up 4 places from where he started the Grand Prix. He hasn't scored a point here in a decade at Monza, and he gets by Alex Albon, who had fresher tyres on the car. That is George Russell's slow stop, problem at the rear.
Right rear, again, that was the same issue for Max Verstappen. There shouldn't be any reason why it's more difficult for right rear gunner, but it may just be a coincidence.
So Verstappen's got a chance now to meddle with Norris's race. Max is not having a brilliant afternoon here. Red Bull is struggling. He's 8 seconds still away from Lewis Hamilton. He has to make another pit stop, but he's got no real threats behind. Possibly George Russell, but Sergio Perez is no threat to Max Verstappen. But if he can just maybe slow Lando Norris down a bit now, if he can slow Lando, that will help Charles Leclerc to take points off Norris later on. So it's in Max's interest now to actually just compromise, even if it's slightly his own race. He's not going forward in this one, he's struggling. But if he can just force Norris backwards, championship-wise, could be huge.
Yeah, we've got Alonso almost a pit stop behind Verstappen, who is the only one that really is getting in his way. And he's going to be thinking he's in a different race altogether. So interesting to see now exactly how much longer Verstappen stays out.
And we've seen Magnussen do this countless times this year. In Zandvoort, he managed to block Alex Albon to the tune of 4 seconds in 1 lap, for example. Now that's extreme, but it's possible, and it's not easy to overtake here. Fresher tyres for Norris, and fundamentally a quicker car this weekend. But Leclerc is a threat for Lando. He's not pitting. He's going to have fresher tyres later on in the Grand Prix. Assuming he does pit, he might not pit. And it's not working out all that well right now for Norris.
This is going to be a move for George Russell, getting past Daniel Ricciardo. And different races meeting there. Not a move that was going to be super late on the brakes. Russell's race coming undone. The opening corner of the opening lap, when he had to take the escape road and damaged the front wing that then had to be replaced. Daniel Ricciardo running in 11th position, 24 laps on that hard tyre. So going a really long way, having had that penalty earlier.
When it's possible to defend, you want me to race him?
Yes, please, yeah.
I mean, it's a bizarre radio message to hear, but for all the reasons that Jolyon has outlined, they want to try and slow down Norris's progress here. A simple pass is not good for Max Verstappen. It's an off weekend for Red Bull.
It is indeed, and it's but it does show sort of clarity of thought from Max, his spatial awareness of what's going on and trying to reach out to the team who can see the bigger picture.
Just across the radio, Verstappen's been told he had to disable some power unit performance, which is why you might notice the clipping. So they'd try and get that back later. All over the road as they scramble past now. Perez gets by, Russell gets by, and Albon is struggling with that Williams at this stage of the Grand Prix. Both of them were going to roar by anyway, so not a hugely consequential error, but he is struggling into turn number 1 to get it slowed down. And also Oscar Piastri has been told on the radio, how long have we got was the question, not long was the reply. So Piastri is going to fire it in for a consequential pit stop next.
Oscar, do you think there's any chance we can one stop?
I don't think so. Front left is pretty dead.
Understood.
There's not many laps left in this Grand Prix, though. It's 23 seconds for a pit stop. Piastri saying, let's have another pit stop, but Leclerc might fancy his chances. The Ferrari's not been great on the tyres in the first half of this race, the first stint, but overall this year it's not been bad. There's a chance for Leclerc to just keep going and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that if there was any chance of a victory, it's got to be worth rolling that dice. But one of the expression we haven't used for a long time is the sort of falling off the cliff.
Yeah.
And if that front left is just seeing such high wear that you end up with no gauge, you're effectively just running on the canvas.
Oh my word, George Russell trying to scrub off the speed from 200 miles per hour. Was eventually given the space by Sergio Perez and then deliberately ran it deep into the first turn to make a point, I believe. He's going to go wheel to wheel with Sergio Perez once again battling over 8th position. Outside line for Perez. Can Russell keep a wheel in there? And it's good speed for that Mercedes. Through goes George Russell and he's up to 8th.
Yeah, racy, aggressive, not much room for him.
We cut to Oscar Piastri in the pits. McLaren have dealt with the car. They've put on a new set of hard tyres. Charles Leclerc takes the lead of the Grand Prix, and Piastri should have enough margin to clear Verstappen and also Lando Norris. He was asked, can you do a one-stop? He was told, he said, by way of reply, I don't think it's possible. Ferrari have a 1-2 at Monza, lap 39 of 53. Oscar Piastri is ahead of Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen, who by the rule book needs to put another compound of tyre on the car and has only stopped once, but Piastri, couple of stops and both of them leave him ahead of Lando Norris.
Yeah, and the two Ferraris circulating at mid-123s, Verstappen and Norris, Norris 123.1, so only a few tenths quicker. So for Ferrari, just coming to Jolyon's point, maybe they can make it work.
I don't think this is working out well at all for McLaren. Norris is barely quicker than Leclerc and Sainz right now, tucked in behind Verstappen. Verstappen's 2 tenths quicker than those ahead. Norris is 4 tenths quicker than those ahead. He's only got 14 laps to make up a 23-second difference. It's not working for them, and that's a huge risk. Pitting Piastri under no pressure in the race lead, it's a huge risk because they've just handed Ferrari right now a 1-2, and they can just see if they can make these hard tyres go to the end. Oscar's got to unleash some serious pace to go and catch them.
What a fascinating twist in a world championship that has come alive. It's greeted us with 7 different winners, and now Lando Norris trying for the first time in this Grand Prix to get past Max Verstappen, who asked the question, shall I let him go or do I race him? And these two about to battle once again, as Norris will be losing time with every lap that he runs behind the Red Bull driver, who still needs to stop. McLaren have elected to 2-stop. Ferrari have a 1-2 at the moment.
He's 21 seconds away from Charles Leclerc with 13 laps to go.
It is a question then of whether Lando Norris can clear Max Verstappen. It is a question then about whether Ferrari's performance on the hard tyre will hold. Or do we go back to DC's point of the dreaded cliff which we never had in recent times. And you've got to go back a fairly long way for a driver to win the Italian Grand Prix with more than one stop, no red flags, no safety car, just more than one stop in a straight fight. Sebastian Vettel back in 2011. This is a traditional one-stop Grand Prix, and McLaren have gone for two. Still, Verstappen leads Norris.
Well, unless they feel that they've run out of front tyre, surely it's worth rolling the dice with at least one of the Ferraris.
And Carlos Sainz would say, it's my birthday and my tyres are fresher.
They've got to go to the end. They've got to try and go to the end. Now, there's 12 laps to go. These laps fly by. There's 6 corners per lap. You don't gain a huge amount on fresh tyres. Let's see, Piastri, that's on 1.4 seconds quicker than Leclerc. He's got to hammer it.
Norris going for it, going past, and that is a fairly efficient move. I don't think Verstappen can come back into turn number 1. By the time that we get to the second chicane, there might be an opportunity. McLaren need to put the hammer down now as Norris gets ahead of his rival for the championship. But Lando Norris was on pole position. Lando Norris was dreaming of 25 points. He's just ahead of Max Verstappen. Verstappen does have another stop to make.
Yeah, and Piastri's just gone 1.4 seconds quicker than Leclerc, so they realise they've got to get on with it.
So it is really in the balance now. This is Kevin Magnussen, who is finding himself being chased down by George Russell. Lando Norris with the fastest first sector of the Grand Prix so far. He did have DRS, he did have the toe. It is coming down to strategy. It is coming down to how you use that Pirelli rubber at Pirelli's home race of Monza. And 1 stop for the Ferrari, 2 stops for the McLaren. Max Verstappen being called in.
So he's done his job now of slowing down Lando Norris. This was finally the move. Max cost Lando quite a lot of time on that final lap. He was nearly 2 seconds slower than Piastri ahead. But Piastri, guys, has to be nearly 1.5 seconds quicker than Leclerc per lap now to get back to him.
Which he is. He's 1.6 seconds quicker. So he's doing your predictions.
But he's got to clear Sainz as well. And then he's got to clear Leclerc.
Leclerc's hard tyres will be degrading. Max Verstappen comes into the pits. The World Championship leader at the start of the day by 70 points. You get 25 points for winning a Grand Prix. Ferrari haven't had a 1-2 around their home circuit since 2004, when Rubens Barrichello took the win ahead of Michael Schumacher. It was that way round, I had to check it. It was that way round, I promise. It was often Barrichello finishing second to Michael Schumacher. It's George Russell getting by and getting past Kevin Magnussen. Oh, is it going to be jubilation for the red wall that line this circuit?
The Ferraris are going to try one. They think it's difficult, but they might as well try. So this is qualifying now. In the words of Stu, just try fast.
How about it? The McLaren's at maximum attack, Ferrari at maximum conservation.
This is absolutely fantastic, isn't it? This is just turning this race on its head. And, well, 10 laps. If there's tyre on the canvas, they can get it to the end. It's if they get to the point where they physically can't keep heat because there is no rubber there, they'll have no choice. The car won't turn and you'll see a massive drop-off in lap time.
It's 1.3 seconds Piastri was quicker than Leclerc on the last lap. I cannot understand the logic for McLaren pitting Piastri when they did. They're covering off no one, and they're opening the door for Leclerc to do the one stop, as I mentioned before, a la George Russell, and they've given them a chance. Now, Piastri's got to hammer this and make up for that on these fresher tyres. Leclerc's just got to nurse his tyres to the end. He's got a teammate to try and act rear gunner, which is going to happen very soon because Piastri's almost on the tail now of Carlos Sainz. But they've given Ferrari a huge sniff with the strategy.
They have indeed. And I think what's going to be really difficult for Piastri is that inevitably, even though you're lighter in fuel, the track is more rubbered in, so you can get those tyres to go longer. There will be a point where that front left starts to take a hit. The thermal degradation will become a factor.
Charles Leclerc trying to do what he did in 2019 when he won this Grand Prix for Ferrari. Since then, he's been on pole around here for a second time, but he's never had a realistic shot at taking the victory. And let's go on board for a, not on board, but trackside for a look at the state of the hard tyre for the Ferrari in the lead by 10.6 seconds.
They've seen better days, haven't they? Those front tyres on the Ferrari. Leclerc's time's dropping marginally. Piastri that time 1.8 seconds quicker, so he may well do it. We have got a race on our hands here to the flag.
Meanwhile, Verstappen lighting up the screens in purple, first and middle sector. Quite a distance to Hamilton ahead, but this might secure him the bonus point.
In all of this, though, remember Norris is the championship challenger for McLaren. We're talking about can Piastri get back to the P1 that he was comfortably in. Norris is 5 seconds behind Piastri. So if it's close for Piastri, Norris was ahead of Leclerc when he made his second stop. He's got an awful lot of work to do. He should get Sainz, but I don't know if he'll get Leclerc.
It's going to give us a grandstand finish in a race that you always think deserves one. Underneath the old banking we go. Carlos Sainz can play the team game here in an enormous way. It's his final race on Italian soil for the famous Italian team. He is heading to Williams. He would have loved an opportunity to contend, but if he can hold up Oscar Piastri, he can potentially secure Ferrari a victory in his last race for the team here at Monza.
Piastri has to make it through here, or he's going to lose a load of lap time on the next one.
But it's DRS, and there's a tow for Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. So that neutralises Piastri's opportunity now. Now, if Carlos wants to really put spanner in the works, he can drive slowly through the Lesmos.
Yeah, I think it's nearly gone, but I guess we try, yeah.
Copy, understood.
It was only 8/10. Piastri was quicker than Leclerc on the last lap. Sainz's tyres are gone. Remember, Leclerc pitted way earlier than Sainz. It shows how good a job Charles has done to create this race-winning opportunity, and this is the problem for Piastri now. There's no way through in these corners.
Leclerc might have gone under the radar in the last couple of Grand Prix, but he has scored podiums in both of them. In Belgium, after Russell was disqualified, and in Zandvoort, he held Piastri at bay. That might be the situation, because the Ferrari clearly doesn't have the grip. We don't see many passes for position into Ascari. It might be about to change. Oscar Piastri fights his way through to second place. He's cleared one Ferrari. The next one is denying him the top step for the second time in his career. It's one Ferrari trying to conserve what they've got. It's one McLaren on the attack to win this Grand Prix.
Yeah, you've got to give him 11 out of 10 for his aggressive overtakes this afternoon. He needed to take that opportunity. DRS, there wasn't much Carlos could do other than defend the inside. But nonetheless, Oscar realising the bigger picture and nailed that pass.
But he took no time on Leclerc on that lap in doing so. So he's up into second place. He now needs 1.5 seconds and then a pass on Leclerc. 7 laps to run. It's all or nothing.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult. That is no question. I think the passes we've just seen, it's only difficult in that sort of Lesmo area where there's such a short run between them. But we've now seen very clearly that he can pass a Ferrari between the second Lesmo and Ascari, and that would still leave open an opportunity down into Parabolica if he didn't get that done.
We're talking last corner stuff here.
We really are. We've seen some extraordinary Grand Prix settled at the last corner. We've seen it in the 60s and the 70s before the chicanes were introduced for safety reasons. It's gone all the way to the line in the past. Oscar Piastri will be hoping that that's going to be the case today. He's trying to close down an 11-second advantage to win his second Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc trying to make it a season to remember, to win his second race of the season, having taken a home victory in Monaco. He's looking for another hugely emotional victory to try and take the top step for Ferrari for the second time in his Formula One career here at Monza.
Piastri only a second quicker than Leclerc on that lap, so he's not on target.
This is masterful from Leclerc. Norris having a look, he's a long way back.
Carlos Sainz, his old teammate, they're good friends. Sainz, tyres fading. Lando Norris' heart will have sunk during this Grand Prix. He's going to take points out of Max Verstappen, but Max Verstappen doesn't finish in 6th place very often. He's going to get 8 points for it. Norris would have been dreaming of a big swing, a huge swing in the points battle.
And brake balance +1. Leave me alone with this. If I don't do things to us, don't ask them time.
Charles Leclerc understands the assignment.
Yeah, absolutely clear. He is. He'll be driving with his fingertips desperate not to make a mistake, the full knowledge that he just doesn't have the potential in those tyres. And, well, a bit nippy with his engineer, who quite clearly is willing him to the win.
He's doing enough. He is doing enough right now, Leclerc. His pace is super consistent. Norris couldn't make it through at Ascari, and he backs off to take the DRS on the exit of this one. So this will be it for Norris back to the podium. But Leclerc, he's just about doing enough.
Lando Norris got super close to Carlos Sainz, not in the right part of the racetrack. It is going to be third position for Lando Norris, who started this race on pole. He held the lead into turn number 1, but his teammate got by into the second chicane. And since then, Piastri has been the lead McLaren. There'll be a few of you out there wondering why they're not favouring the lead driver when it comes to the Drivers' Championship. They are closing the gap to Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. But have they opened the door for Charles Leclerc and Ferrari?
Well, don't write off the fact that if it just doesn't look like it's on, if they don't think they can get Leclerc for the win, they could switch them around before the line. We've seen it with Ferrari in the past.
But what a blooper we're talking about for McLaren here. 1-2 on the grid, racing each other, and then so you've got, first of all, Norris not maximising his opportunity against Verstappen, who's looking like 6th place today, and then pitting Piastri from a comfortable race lead, giving Leclerc suddenly a golden opportunity to produce an unexpected result, but a chance to do something when he's not been looking like he's in victory contention. If it stays anything like this is not going to be a great report for McLaren.
I've just had to turn up my headphones because every lap that we get to the finish, the crowd are going wild. He knows this feeling. He's experienced it before in 2019. But remember, 33 laps on that hard tyre. They really aren't advised to go much further than that.
Can people in the background please be awake? I know this is a position, but it's important.
Yes, copy that, Max.
Max Verstappen setting standards on the radio. He wants the full performance of the team. He knows he's in a battle, but could McLaren's strategy call have left them maybe a little bit off the hook?
Piastri coming through traffic on the last lap was only 8/10 quicker than Leclerc. Leclerc is driving masterfully out front, and Ferrari have nailed it to be in this position. 4.5 laps left, and this could be one of his finest race wins.
This will be the full knighthood for Fred Vasseur if they convert this one. And yeah, dreams do come true, it would appear. Or have I gone 4 laps too early?
We're going to find out. We have seen things change late on at this famous old track, but it is cacophonous. It is stunning. The soundtrack at Monza. He's got a different crash helmet design for this race. He's got front tyres that aren't in the best condition, but he's got the lead and the crowd on their feet.
He's bringing it. He's bringing it right now. He's only 2/10 off his best lap of the race, Charles Leclerc. There's not a huge sign of degradation for him. And Piastri on the last lap was only half a second quicker. He's ticking through the laps, and he is right now doing everything right for a victory for Ferrari at Monza.
Yeah, you've got to believe now that any signs of a cliff are in a very long way, and he's running it right out as his brother there watches on. And yeah, this would be an unbelievable result if they can pull this one.
Wait, why did McLaren pit Piastri and give them this chance?
Well, they must have believed from their data that the fronts would not hold. We heard the radio message from Lando Norris. He didn't know why it was so extreme. They called Norris in. Do you remember when they responded with Leclerc on the first stop? Leclerc was on the radio going, why have you done that if we've been undercut? This is what the Constructors' Championship looks like at the moment. 10 points in it. This is what the race looks like at the moment. 3 laps to go of the 3.5 miles, and Charles Leclerc leads Oscar Piastri by 6.9 seconds. Last time around, Piastri did a 22.5, Leclerc a 23.4.
Yeah, it's under control. Only the racing gods, I think, can get in the way of this victory for Charles Leclerc. Disappointment will be already growing on the McLaren pit wall.
Oh, the debrief from this on so many counts for McLaren. It is a sensational drive, this, from Leclerc. His tyre life has been just great this whole season. Ferrari have been bemoaning their qualifying pace, but the race pace has been absolutely brilliant, and they've not been able to use it because the upgrades took a wrong turn in Barcelona. They've been a bit adrift for a while. Here, they hoped the qualifying pace would be good enough for a front row. It wasn't. Leclerc was fourth and gutted he wasn't in the pole fight, but on race day, the car has come alive again, and he is still metronomic with his lap times.
This is a fabled circuit, over a century old. It's seen some extraordinary days. It has seen some incredible moments. Charles Leclerc is trying to stand on the podium for the third Grand Prix in a row, but crucially on the top step. It's an incredible sound. It's a wall of noise as we go on to the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. McLaren are going to be asking themselves some questions. Their cars, who were first and second at the start of the Grand Prix, second and third, they elected to take 2 stops, and Charles Leclerc has a lead of 5.7 seconds.
They've thrown this one away as it stands. They have thrown it away. There's no point. It looked like Leclerc had a faster car than Piastri in this race. He fell away in the first stint. He was dropping back in the second stint, and yet he hasn't had to pass them on track, and he's 1.5 laps from a home Grand Prix win.
Yeah, and still showing no signs of giving himself a margin, running it right to the exit of the curbs. He knows it, he feels it, he can smell it.
Under the banking we go. The man with 6 career wins at the start of the day wasn't happy after the first stops. He had to start this Grand Prix in 4th position, but he's going to have a handsome advantage as he comes across the line, and in a few moments' time he will start the 53rd and last lap of the Italian Grand Prix. In the lead for Ferrari, McLaren open the door. Charles Leclerc is going to cross the line for 3.5 seconds. The next time he goes past, Alessandro Di Piero will wave the checkered flag. This is the last lap in Monza, and the crowd are cacophonous. They're roaring him around.
Yeah, and they're all praying. The power is with him. He knows now it's not about saving anything. Tyres are going to be good, and he's tasted victory before, but it's been a lean year, hasn't it? This would just be extraordinary. Beautiful, beautiful drive.
Do McLaren switch their drivers on the last lap as well? As it stands, Verstappen has the fastest lap of the race. There is only a 6-point swing heading to Lando Norris, who started this one on pole. They could make it a 9 if they swap Piastri and Norris at the end.
I think that would just maybe throw open even further controversy. It would be the right thing to do.
It's the obvious thing to do. It's the obvious thing to do.
It is, but, you know, there are going to be more questions asked on top of the strategic decision.
These are magical moments at Monza. This did not seem possible when Charles Leclerc started 4th on the grid, but it will be a season of home victories for Charles Leclerc. The man from Monaco is the man for Monza. The Tifosi are roaring him home, and for the 2nd time in his career, Charles Leclerc is the winner of the Italian Grand Prix for Ferrari. He's won the race by 2.6 seconds for his 7th career victory, and it's one to savour.
It is indeed. Norris there unleashes the fastest lap right at the end. We have our answer. The team McLaren have not switched the drivers, but this is going to be a victory that's sweeter than all others.
Monza magic for Leclerc and Ferrari. The red wall in song once again. The one stop proved to be the right path, and the noise, I can nearly hear myself speak, Jolyon. Wild scenes at Monza.
What a drive, what a driver. And Ferrari, this was a team a couple of years ago, couldn't get a strategy right all season. They were throwing races away, and now they are team reformed. And what a moment for Charles Leclerc. There's going to be huge questions of McLaren. So many things have been mishandled on that team today. They've thrown away this win. They've got wrong driver in 2nd place for a Drivers' Championship, but Leclerc's moment is now.
Ma come mi fai sognare? Come mi fai sognare?
Sì! Grandissimi! Un'altra volta ci arrediamo!
Grazie Charles. Monaco
Mamma
and
mia,
Monza the same year.
Mamma mia, mamma mia! Questa stagione però è da infarto, tra alti e bassi, mamma mia! Però come sono belli gli alti! Oh, grazie a tutti, veramente, a tutta l'azienda che ha fatto un lavoro della Madonna per portarci gli upgrade, grazie a voi. C'è ancora tanto lavoro, però a casa nostra, di nuovo, come nel 19. Mamma mia, grandissimi, grandissimi!
Charles Leclerc, so emotional across the line. The flares have gone off. They have risen to their feet. This great gallery at Monza stand for him once more. Wow. McLaren have an opportunity with both cars on the front row. A fine second place for Oscar Piastri. No orders were issued. Across the line, Lando Norris claimed the bonus point for fastest lap. It was a 1:21.432. But the team at Woking will be asking questions that are awkward in the debrief because they've allowed the door ajar for the man from Monaco.
As they lined up on the grid an hour and a half ago, Norris had a 19-point swing on Verstappen on paper. If they'd finished as they started, at the end of the day, Lando got the fastest lap on the last lap, but it is a 8-point swing with that fastest lap change, an 8-point swing on what had to be their day. And when they have to get everything right to mount a championship challenge, that was a huge miss. But what a result, and what scenes for Charles Leclerc.
Look at this.
È grandissima strategia anche, cioè grande tutto, anche la macchina andava forte oggi. Grazie, 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 grazie.
Why did we pit if they've undercut us was the question. 38 laps on the hard tyre was the answer he had to give. He told the team what they needed to do. He responded with a stint of 38 laps on the hard tyre. An incredible Grand Prix victory. His second victory for Ferrari at Monza, 2019 and 2024. Charles Leclerc is the fourth driver to win multiple races this year. And what races they are. It has to be a classic if this man's to climb out of the car on the top of it as the winner. First in Monaco, now in Monza. Charles Leclerc about to take the adoration of the crowd. He made an audacious strategy work. He's the winner at Monza for Ferrari for the second time in his career. This place, ever present. The Italian Grand Prix, ever present on the Formula One calendar. Only the British Grand Prix has that honour as well. It's motor racing heritage and a race to remember for Charles Leclerc. This is why you go go-karting. This is why you dream of being in Formula One. For the raw emotion to be this high, for the crowd to queue at the gates and pour on to the circuit, to pour under the podium. Fourth on the grid to Grand Prix victory for Charles Leclerc, who repeats his win for the Scuderia from 2019. And when he looks back at the data, 38 laps, he will ask himself how he did that. But he did. And it's finally a day of strategic celebration for Ferrari, Joni.
A brilliant, brilliant drive from Leclerc. 38 laps on the hard tyres. He pitted earlier than Sainz, and he managed to keep them in neatly until the end. Sainz, in fact, did his personal best at the end of the race. Beautifully executed from the strategist, from the driver, the pit crew at Ferrari as well. And McLaren opened the door for them to take it, and Leclerc managed to just provide the smoothness behind the wheel to take this win.
The prancing horse flies once again at Monza. Zach Brown congratulates Fred Vasseur. Vasseur enjoying every moment of this. And it is an incredible stat. It is an incredible scene. But a second career success for Ferrari at Monza, at a race where, incredibly now, if you look at the last 20 years, the stats tell you it's better to be on pole here than in Monaco. But now we've had another different driver win this race from outside pole position. It's now 5 in the last 5 years, and our most recent one is Charles Leclerc, who was at Monaco levels of decibels, wasn't he, across the line, and he's collecting himself, wandering around slightly uncertain of what to do, and now he's posing for a photo with the mechanics. Instant celebrations with those working on the car. And we've had 7 different winners so far this year. We have seen an amazing, amazing Grand Prix. Nico Rosberg is going to speak to the top 3. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and our winner, Charles Leclerc.
Wow, this is Formula One at its very, very best. It's completely unpredictable at the moment. Ferrari catching that surprise win here today. Lando, I'm sure we have to start with that turn 4 overtake that Oscar did on you right after the start. Did he catch you by surprise?
Of course, because he got past. But yeah, I don't know what I should have done differently there. If I brake 1 meter later, we probably would have crashed. So something we'll look at. But I mean, Ferrari just drove a better race today, especially Charles. He did a very good job. So just hats off to them.
Was the one stop ever a possibility for you when you were chatting with your engineers or something?
No.
That was never considered?
I mean, we considered it the whole race, but not possible with the amount of graining that I had. So yeah, it's a tough one. We knew it would be tight, but just with our car and some of the limitations we have, it wasn't possible today. So we knew it. We knew that could be a possibility. So I was disappointed, of course, but yeah, Ferrari did a better job. They had a better car today, and that's hats off to them.
In order to fight Verstappen for the championship, you really need all the points all the time. And now there's Oscar, you know, who's kind of in between there and taking points away from you as well. What's your thoughts on that?
Well done to him. He did a good job. He got past me, and he deserves it.
All right, thank you very much, Lando. Congrats anyways on 3rd place. Oscar, that was a great race from you. Definitely, I think you did all you could, but I'm sure you're still very, very disappointed with that end result.
Yeah, it hurts. I'm not gonna lie, it hurts a lot. Did a lot of things right today. You know, there was a lot of question marks on the strategy going into the race. Yeah, from the position we were in, with the tires looking like they did, doing a one-stop seemed like a very risky call, and in the end it was right. So yeah, very, very happy with the pace, with the race that I managed to achieve. Just when you finish second, it hurts.
The team had asked you, hey, do you want to try that one stop or not? Do you think in hindsight you should have gone for it, or actually really that tire was just gone?
In hindsight, yes. But it's, you know, everyone's a legend on Monday after the race, or you know, at the checkered flag. And today, unfortunately, we got it a bit wrong, and you know, myself being a big part of that. You know, we had everything to lose from being in the lead of the race. Charles could try something a bit different. He was going to finish 3rd either way, and yeah, picked the right gamble today. You know, the mediums were getting destroyed, and even the hards on the Red Bull at the start looked pretty dead, and my front left was pretty heavily grained. Just we didn't expect it to clear back up again, which it did. So yeah, painful.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Great drive anyways today, and there's always next race out to try and get that win again. And now we will welcome the winner. Charles, you are the king of Italy right now. I mean, wow, wow, wow. That is just so awesome.
It's an incredible feeling. Actually, I thought that the first time would just feel like this, and then the second time, if there was a second time, wouldn't feel as special. But my God, the emotions in the last few laps, exactly the same like in 2019. Just watching the grandstand instead of the track, which is tricky, but yeah, incredible. I mean, Monaco and Monza are the two races that I want to win every year. Obviously, I want to win as many races as possible and the World Championship as soon as possible, but these are the two most important races of the season, and I managed to win them this year, so it's so special.
I mean, I wish everybody at home could feel the atmosphere here at the moment. You know, it's just off the charts. And could you feel the tifosi carrying you there in the last couple of laps?
Sì, i tifosi siete incredibili, mamma mia. Come dicevo in inglese prima, la prima volta era veramente speciale, il primo anno in Ferrari, in 2019, era stato un sogno per me. Pensavo che se c'era una seconda volta non sarebbe così speciale perché la prima è sempre più unica, però quello non era vero, è così sempre speciale e questo è grazie a voi con il sostegno, la spinta che ci date tutti i giorni quando veniamo qua. Grazie mille davvero per tutto.
So I'll just translate quickly that, of course, you say the tifosi are just unbelievable, and the power they give you, you know, is just so special. You brought a lot of upgrades here to the car. It seems to be working really so much better. Do you think you can keep challenging for wins now, even if we go to a different track like Baku next?
I don't know because I think our package was working pretty well on a track like Monza. Whether it will be the same for the rest of the season, I doubt so. I still think McLaren are the favorites, but we have done a step forward, that's for sure. And Baku is a pretty nice track for me. I quite like this track and I've been quite competitive in the past, so who knows, maybe we can achieve something special again there.
So I'm wishing you a spectacular party tonight, and to all the tifosis as well. I hope you go crazy, you all deserve it, and see you all out next time in Baku.
Grazie mille, grazie davvero, grazie. E forza Ferrari.
Charles Leclerc with two incredibly emotional victories in 2024. His home one in Monaco and his team's home race in Monza. Look at the scenes. Scarlet underneath the podium. The tyres looked a bit second-hand, but when you're roared around like an atmosphere that few places, not in motorsport, in sport, can produce, the feeling when you cross the line. Warmly applauded by McLaren, brilliantly chased home by Oscar Piastri. Jubilation for Ferrari on the pit wall, in the grandstands. And a formation photo with Carlos Sainz, who finished in 4th position, and the winner, Charles Leclerc. Incredible. The top 10 was Charles Leclerc ahead of Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton was in 5th, 6th place for Max Verstappen, and it was Russell, Perez, and a season's equaling best for Alex Albon. First point in a decade for Kevin Magnussen. Alonso missed out across the line. We obviously didn't see it because we were drinking in these pictures of Monza victory, but Alonso missed out by 0.2 of a second, so very close there. Cool down room.
I was very surprised.
I wasn't that surprised you stayed out, but I was surprised you survived, because my front left was not looking very good. I mean, it was still going okay, but we were going like, what, 8/10 slower, I think?
Yeah.
And then, what? Yeah, that was tight.
Yeah, it was. I thought I will. If I was locking up, I was destroying you.
Yes.
This is an easy race compared to that.
McLaren disconsolate, Ferrari and Charles Leclerc jubilant, and the prancing horse flies again on this iconic main straight. Between the timing towers, thousands wearing red have poured onto the circuit for one of the most iconic podiums of the year. First out, we will welcome the pole sitter. Lando Norris will score another podium this season It is his 10th of the campaign, his best return in any season of his Formula One career. But he had designs on loftier steps today. We thought that Oscar Piastri's move on the opening lap had given him a second Grand Prix victory. Not to be, but what promise in just his second campaign in Formula One. And this, I'm going to leave to the crowd. We will welcome Charles Leclerc to the top step. The Monaco and Italian national anthems, sung loud and proud, the second one, by the crowd at Monza. And through the haze, we spy our winner, because the flares are going off, the flags are flying, and it is a 7th career victory for Charles Leclerc. He's won it from 4th on the grid, and he's made an audacious one-stop strategy work, 38 laps on the hard tyre, his 2nd Ferrari win at Monza, and the gold medal is draped around the trophy that he will treasure. Lovely scenes underneath the podium, and for Ferrari, who win here for the 20th time in their history. For great elite sport, you need multiple competitors. Oscar Piastri, after the jubilation of Budapest, on the wrong end of the result today. You can see how much it hurts that this one got away after his move at the start of the Grand Prix. He fell 2.6 seconds short, but it was a great drive. Lando Norris and McLaren still need to find, despite all of their amazing work, to go from last to first. In terms of form, they just need to find a bit more at high speed. But for Charles Leclerc and the red wall of the Tifosi, utter jubilation against the odds. It's always been a one-stop kind of race, but my word, did Charles Leclerc have to work hard to deny the McLarens. And Jolyon, the party is only just beginning.
Oh, they know how to really soak in a win like nobody else. Scenes at Monza, this is what it's all about. A beautiful win for Charles Leclerc. You know, Ferrari are now only 39 points off the Constructors' Championship lead. We speak about McLaren v Red Bull, that is now just 8 points. McLaren massively in the ascendancy still, but Ferrari with a first and a fourth, all of the cheer today, they're not that far away either. They've got Baku coming up, Singapore coming up, some strong circuits.
Charles Leclerc has been on pole position at both of them, and they are celebrating different overalls for the home race. But a repeat of 2019, 5 years on. Charles Leclerc drinking in every moment he can. The champagne raised, the trophy raised for the 20th time in 75 World Championship Grand Prix. It is Ferrari on top at Monza with a magical race to remember, and it all came down to whether you were going to stop once or twice. But Leclerc delivered, and raucous scenes have followed. Here's the race results after 53 pulsating laps. Charles Leclerc takes a 7th career victory. Oscar Piastri second, he fell just 2.6 seconds short. Lando Norris, 3rd place for him, having started on pole position. Carlos Sainz, his 30th birthday, and rewarded with 4th place. Then it was Hamilton, a rare off day for the World Championship leader Max Verstappen, who loses ground for the 2nd race in a row. Then it's George Russell and Sergio Perez. Alex Albon equals his best for the season so far in 9th, just his 3rd point score, and a first point in a decade around this place for Kevin Magnussen. Alonso chased him home, less than 0.2 of a second between those two. 12th on debut for Franco Colapinto and Williams, and then it was Ricciardo, Ocon, Gasly, Bottas, Hülkenberg, Zhou Guanyu, Lance Stroll, and the only retirement of the Grand Prix after he was hit at the first chicane was Yuki Tsunoda. Drivers' Championship, the lead belongs to Max Verstappen on 303 points. Lando Norris closing that gap in the last 7 days, but he would have wanted more today. Charles Leclerc is in 3rd, ahead of Oscar Piastri in 4th, and it's Sainz, Hamilton, Perez, Russell. No change in the positions. The top 10 completed by Alonso, who is on 50 points ahead of Lance Stroll, his teammate. Nico Hülkenberg is in 11th, and then it is Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Gasly, Behrman, Magnussen, and a leap in position, the only one today, Alex Albon's couple of points puts him above Esteban Ocon. Zhou Guanyu didn't score today, neither did Valtteri Bottas or Franco Colapinto. Logan Sargent no longer competing in the World Championship. In the Constructors' Championship, the gap continues to close. 446 points for Red Bull Racing. McLaren now on 438. Ferrari closing the gap as well, 407 after their victory today on home soil. Mercedes are 4th, and it's Aston Martin RB ahead of Haas and Alpine. More points for Williams today thanks to Albon. Still nothing on the board for Sauber. Well, that was something special. My thanks to David Coulthard, to Jolyon Palmer, and for you watching at home. Charles Leclerc is the master of Monza. He's won the Italian Grand Prix for Ferrari.